That's right. I'm live here at the Walter Bosley channel. For all of you waiting in the live chat room, appreciate that. And all of you who've been waiting for me to get this late start. Had some important business this morning out in Palm Springs, and you guys will hear about that eventually. That went very well, but just a little longer than expected, longer than usual, but it was well worth it because, as I said, it involves something that you guys are going to want to hear more about. And many of you might want to participate or attend. Oops. I kind of insinuated perhaps that it's an event. Oh, well, could be. I'm here today, whatever time you may be watching this, sporting my spooky Hell's Bells shirt because this is a rather spooky topic, I think. Let me test my cough button here. And I have the little Hoots mug. There he is. Ain't that cool? We're going to be offering more Hoots items over at lostcontentlibrary.com, but you may go there now to lostcontentlibrary.com to see what we already have up at the shop. We have a shop there. You go lostcontentlibrary.com and you hit the shop button and it takes you to the shop where there are some items for you, as they say in Russia, shapovats. Yes, that's a legitimate verb. See, in the Russian language, when they want to turn something into a verb that they don't have in their own language, they often put an ovats ending. So shapovats becomes ya shapovayu, meaning I shop. We shop is muy shapovayim, and on and so forth. You can have fun with ovats. You can ovats whatever word you want. Take that as you will. Have fun with it. It's my gift to you. A little Russian there for your enjoyment. So you can go to lostcontentlibrary.com, hit the shop button, and you can get yourself, a Hoots thing, plus some other items. But there's going to be a lot more. Another thing that you can get through Lost Continent Library, and I'm very proud of the job I did on these, bringing these to you. Now remember, Lost Continent Library publishes classic fiction reprints, okay? And me being me, I'm going to select works that are reflective of my interests comprehensively, right? Esoteric things, mystical things, you name it. And as you know, mystical adventure is a very favorite genre of mine. I'm going to pull the mug up here to get another sip of water because I've been having dry throat lately. And probably a guy who was the master of mystical adventure is this fellow that I have published 4 of his classic works. Talbot Mundy. Let's see if I can pull up a photo of Talbot Mundy. Here he is. Talbot Mundy. Now, this guy's works by no means were the very first mystical adventure books or stories, but the way he wrote them, the trappings of his mystical adventures, the formula that he would use, this became really probably the most popular format, style, what have you, call it what you will, of mystical adventure that inspired, Hollywood serials and movies. For instance, The Man Who Would Be King, even though it was written by Kipling, the film, by the time you get to the film, it's very much in a style that was influenced by Talbot Mundy. Now, the whole Indiana Jones series, those could be considered classic, what would you say, descendants of the Talbot Mundy mystical adventure story, okay? And what I've brought to you are 4 of Talbot Mundy's best works. This is the 9 Unknown. Look at that cover art. Now, this is vintage cover art, folks. This is probably Mundy's best-known mystical adventure work, The 9 Unknown, in which 2 groups of devotees of, their respective metaphysical paths, spiritual paths, head off in an interesting journey or race to achieve whatever the MacGuffin is, right? But in Talbot Mundy's The 9 Unknown, we come away with a lot of the tropes that ended up in mystical adventure literature, films, and TV up until our times. So this guy, Talbot Mundy, is the guy that really originated a lot of the things we see. And the 9 Unknown, in the genre, that we see in the genre, and the 9 Unknown is a prime example of this. And I've got 4 of them. You remember I mentioned the winds of the world. Now this is, see the lady on the cover there? That represents Yasmini. Now Yasmini is Talbot Mundy's, one of his probably 3 most famous characters. And she appears in multiple stories of his. Probably the most famous is a character named Jim Grim. And Yasmini appears in, I think, 1 or 2 Jim Grimm stories, but she's in The Winds of the World, okay? And then, of course, most recently, the reason I'm bringing these up again is you guys, I don't think you've seen The Eye of Zaytun. This is the most recent Lost Continent Library release of Talbot Mundy's works. It's a good-sized novel there. And these novels, what I do is I use, classic fonts, all right, the kind of font that you would see in a 1920s book, all right? And The Eye of Zaytun, by the way, was one of the first works of literature of any kind that brought to the attention to the world, the Armenian genocide. So you can't say that Lost Continent Librarian Walter Bosley presents nothing but fluff, because this book was not considered fluff for that reason. It was one of the earliest works, public works, and voices saying, hey, this is happening, this happened, this ain't a good thing. Attention needs to be brought to it. And this book, The Eye of Zaytun, even with its adventurous parts and everything else, even if you don't want to even think about the historical aspects, it's still a rousing, good read, okay? But this does happen to be one of the first works to bring to the world's attention the Armenian genocide. And I'll tell you, this was originally published in 1920. Okay, so this is legitimate, classic, adventure literature. Talbot Mundy, and then of course there's the Caves of Terror, or Caves of Terror, not the Caves of Terror. There is no article on the front of that, as you can see. Talbot Mundy Caves of Terror, and look who's on the cover. That's Yasmini. So it's another Yasmini novel. I want you to look at these books. Okay, These are great editions of Talbot Mundy's works, and this is just 4 of them. And you can see I did kind of a themed thing with the black and white, right? And they make a nice set. We're going to be offering probably a special price if you get the whole set, because don't they look attractive on your shelf there? Look at that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's sexy. The books are sexy as hell. okay? And you want to have as much sex appeal as possible. The more books you have in your home, the more bookshelves, the more filled they are with sexy-looking books, the sexier you are. Just something to think about, okay? It's important. But if you say to yourself, I wonder what Walter Bosley likes to read when he wants to be entertained. We know he likes adventure. What kind of adventure does Walter Bosley read? Walter Bosley reads Talbot Mundy. Now, there's more Talbot Mundy. I've got Black Light, another one of his, coming in one of these fantabulously, attractively designed editions. And by the way, did I say that I designed these? I did. These are, conceived and designed by me, Walter Bosley, and I'm really proud of these, all joking aside. These are nice-looking books, and it makes a nice-looking set. Check them out. Those of you interested, check them out. Even if you don't think you are interested, check them out anyway. And you know where you can check them out? lostcontinentlibrary.com, which will lead you to the pages for the books. Okay, so these 4 available now individually, but this coming week I'm likely going to be setting the price for buying all 4. So check it out. There's that. There's always something good and new going to be coming to lostcontinentlibrary.com. There's going to be more coming to walterbosley.com in case, there's not enough of that in your life, which there never is. So you want to go over to lostcontinentlibrary.com and to walterbosley.com. So, and pretty soon you too can have Kaleidoscope Grimoire phone case. Isn't that nice? So all sorts of good stuff. And you can show your support by getting any of these items. It helps me do what I'm able to do. It helps us pursue what we're trying to pursue here, since we are expanding what we do, our scope, the personnel. And you can very specifically show your support by going over to that shop button and looking at the shirt that we call the supporters shirt, for those who really love what we do here and want to give us some encouragement. That's over there too. Now, today is connected to another new release in the nonfiction realm. And that is something that I've wanted to come out with for a while, ever since Rick and I came out with the original Empire of the Wheel. I've thought about releasing I think it was originally written in the 1880s. The edition that I have reprinted is the 1897 edition of a book by a man named John Brown, not the John Brown of Civil War history fame, of Harper's Ferry fame. No, this is the John Brown who is one of the main players in the history of San Bernardino, California. Okay, he was one of the original founding pioneers of the primarily Mormon culture. He himself was not Mormon, but the Mormon group that came here and founded non-native San Bernardino. See, San Bernardino had been named and established in 1810, but it was mostly populated by the local native cultures, of which there are 4 tribes in this area, and the Spanish Californios, okay? The first non-native white settlers, I guess is how they put it, were a group of Mormon settlers who had in their employ some non-Mormon scouts, right, and craftsmen and equestrian experts, you might say. And John Brown was one of these. He was a scout, he was a trapper. And from the time that he was 6 years old, as he wrote in his book, he was being approached by spirits, entities, some who were recognizably people he knew who had passed on, who had died. Others were beings, just from their realm. Two in particular were brothers. And the first one that appeared to him between these two brothers was a character named Mopalaquist and his brother Mephiloquist. The only difference in their names is one is spelled without the H, the other one is spelled with the PH. Mopalaquist and Mephiloquist. Now, if you've read my time travel novel, you notice that I kind of used that name for a very creepy character. The way I describe the character in the novel is not the way Brown describes him, and certainly not the way he looks. But according to Brown, in his book, John Brown, Medium of the Rockies, these beings started coming to him at 6 years old, and they would show him things, teach him things, take him on these wild psychic journeys, and everything was just wonderful, love and light, until the day came when he was a young man and he had been working a mining job, and he didn't want to do something that the entities, and there were more than just Mopalaquist and Mephiloquist, but he didn't want to do what the entities wanted him to do. So they let him know in no uncertain terms that essentially they owned him. He was theirs. He was indebted to them. Now, what was it they wanted him to do? Well, it was something that really kind of did not set well with him. And that was they wanted him to be involved with targeting a man in his town, who was kind of a jerk, where certain things were considered, particularly spiritual things. But these entities expressed a particular dislike for him, focused on his religious choice. Because he happened to be a Christian, these entities were basically expressing literally how much they don't like Christians, and Christians need to be targeted in particular, and they wanted Brown's help in targeting this particular man. Now, one of the reasons they wanted to target this guy was because his wife, who was dabbling, I guess you'd say, in occultism, they were in favor of, she had earned their favor. She was useful to them. And this guy, he was disdainful of his wife's interest and faith in this stuff, and they wanted to teach him a lesson. So they tell John Brown about what they referred to as a sort of poison magnetism, which, if he were to place a particular object, at their bidding in this gentleman's favorite chair, he would be stricken ill, and they could kill him if they so desired. And they really communicated this in a very mocking tone of the man. And it no matter what you think of the man himself, it was clear that the entities were really hateful and targeting him because They really disapproved of his spiritual choice. And I think you can see the point, whether you're a Christian or not. You get my point. He could have been, a devotee of Gumby with his pony pal Pokey. That's not what matters. What matters is these were beings that from the time John Brown was 6 years old, all these years of his life, they had been, telling him how much they loved him and cared about him. And it was all love and light, nice, nothing negative or bad, until the first time he says, I don't really want to do what you're asking me to do. And then they turned on him. And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. Let's go to Empire of the Wheel, and I can share with you a little bit of this. In Chapter 12 of Empire of the Wheel, Rick and I talk about this group that Brown was a part of here in San Bernardino, the Brotherhood of Kindred Manifestations. That's written about here in Empire of the Wheel. But specifically, I say, let's see, it's in Chapter 12, page 185, let's see, he was indeed, let me see, this is when he was a child, and he suddenly heard voices all around and noticed a crowd of people of all ages watching him. Now, these were the dead, okay? And then he heard a voice that said, John, we have come to help you. We love you. We love to be with you. We want you to live with us, right? Come live with us, the dead people. Well, we go on, Rick and I, enter a spirit entity named, there's Mapalaquist, who told little John, come to remove all fear. And then he extends this 2-foot rod. We'll get into that. That's for another discussion, but that should sound familiar to you with a couple of UFO cases, one of them being the Herbert Schirmer case, okay? And my dad's claim of the rod with the sting of 1,000 needles, as the Paiutes say. And the way Brown described this relationship in his book was, quoting, a marriage contract between two souls so that they could blend and become one. This kind of sounds like possession. Not just influence, but possession, right? And as I told you, let's see. As a young man, John Brown once worked at a mine. Returning home from a full day, he suddenly fell ill. That was when a glowing ball beckoned him into a tunnel. Once inside, Brown encountered a very unhappy Mapalaquist. Brown had ignored one of the angry spirit's instructions, and now he was going to pay for this disobedience. And the spirits told him, you are indebted to the spirits. Mapalaquist scolded Brown because the young man had not been willing to harm someone else on behalf of various spirits associated with Mapalaquist. Before long, Brown also said his spirit guides told him the following: to those who question the power of spirits, if they have the right conditions, the spirits can throw a poisonous magnetism upon one to their injury. We have only to say that we know a medium living less than 1,000 miles from here who has the meanest kind of Christian husband. He would rather be the head of a mouse than the tail of a lion. Well, we magnetized, that's poison magnetized, his favorite chair, and he suffered illness for a week. After another attack using the poison magnetism, the spirits assured Brown and his fellow witnesses, quoting, we could have killed him, but did not wish to do so. The poor lost mouse, they mock him. Now, another comment from one of the spirits was, Christians are the worst. So, again, I'm not pointing that out to, defend, blindly anyone who might be a Christian. I think you should understand the point of all that is that these were spirits who had who talked light and love all these years to Brown. And then they suddenly, with other spirits coming in, who are these other spirits and entities, they want Brown to harm someone, to injure someone whom they could kill at their own will and whom they find it funny to terrorize. Now, it doesn't matter what religion the guy was. It doesn't matter if he was, kind of a blowhard jerk husband. Look at what the entities are telling Brown. And that's just some of the darker stuff in John Brown's book, John Brown, Medium of the Rockies, originally written in the 1880s, and the edition I have am releasing. By the time most of you watch this, it'll be available. You'll see a post for it at lostcometlibrary.com. Now remember, this is supposed to be nonfiction. All right, this is not one of the fiction reprints I'm doing, but this book is wild, and I will be on a future episode digging more into this book for you, sharing it, and we're talking, Brown claims that they showed him other planets and the civilizations that live there. One of the things that he saw when they took him into this special realm was looking back, way back in ancient times, and how a little girl with using a string was able to pull along a heavy, massive, megalith, for what it's worth, floating in the air. And she just had a string tied around it, and she could just pull this floating megalith stone, floating just inches above the ground or whatever. And this was one of the things that they showed Brown as an alleged revelation on how, some of these ancient monuments and mysterious megalithic structures were built. So it really is a wild book, and I have retitled it. It's titled Poisonous Magnetism. Okay, The Paranormal Experiences of John Brown, Medium of the Rockies. And I will leave it for you to decide. You read the book and tell me what you think. I come away with mixed feelings about his experience, because I think those of us who have had paranormal experiences certainly have studied the legit paranormal experiences of others. I don't condemn the having of these experiences. I don't condemn the interest in having these experiences. I just argue, I don't even condemn the pursuit of them if done wisely. If done foolishly, you're going to get what you ask for. Okay? Because in spite of, in our community, the people that it's all love and light, it's all love and light, it's all love and light, the entities and the spirits, there's no such thing as the ones that mean you harm. I mean, remember some years back when angels were the trendy thing, and there were those people, I heard them myself, more than one, the people who would say, oh, I believe angels are out there, angels exist, but I don't believe demons do. I think there's no such thing as demons. I mean, really? But yeah, there were people like out there. And my point has always been, the stuff is very dangerous. Remember, I told you years ago, over 30 years ago, I was taught a very specific method of necromancy, of raising the dead and talking to them at their grave sites. And yeah, I was out there, like a nutty, young John D. doing some Lovecraftian stuff. I was working for the FBI at the time. It had nothing to do with my duties, but that gives you a context for at what point in my life this was. I was in my late 20s, actually. And there I was in an old colonial-era cemetery on Long Island, doing my necromancy thing under the stars. And, so I certainly am not going to, condemn people pursuing things, but I do suggest that, people be honest about what they're dealing with, okay? These things aren't all love and light, and they might be all love and light up to a certain point. And there's a lot of people who get really naive. Well, so far nothing bad has happened. Okay, well, you can mess around with, electrical cords and sockets in your house, and yeah, up until the first time something bad happens and you get shocked or, God forbid, killed, it appears that, gee, so far so good, right? But still, you're playing with fire, is my point. And that's all I recommend people do, is just acknowledge that you're playing with fire. It's like the idea that there's no such thing as ETs that will ever be a threat. That's naive and that's childish. It's foolish. It's about a half a dozen kinds of stupid and ignorant. Okay, and that's the same thing with this stuff. And I know there's the naysayers and the skeptics out there. None of this exists, Walter. Why does he talk about this stuff? Actually, the snarks and naysayers don't do that. They're very arrogant. They have the arrogant voice. Oh, there's no such thing as this stuff. Well, okay, BS, I say to that. But look, even if you're one of those and you don't believe in the reality of the paranormal and the spirit world and stuff like that, at the very least then, you should acknowledge the psychological damage that can be done with playing with this stuff, right? It can drive a person into madness. A madness that they can spiral into and, never emerge from. So, that's really what I want to talk about today. And I'm going to be bringing on a couple of guests from almost about as far away from where I'm at as you can get. And they are known mediums in Australia. They're native Australia. So let me jump over here, and I'll bring them in, and we can talk to them about some of the not so love and light experiences they've had. Now, I'm not seeing them here in the studio yet, so I will keep going. Okay. And on this book, Poisonous Magnetism, The Paranormal Experiences of John Brown, Medium of the Rockies, I'm really excited about releasing this book, bringing this to you in printed form. It is a true reprint of the actual 1897 edition. And why is this a big deal? Well, because it's another way of preserving classic books, old books that might otherwise just disappear. Okay, this is what appeals to the bibliophile who loves classic books for their content, not just to have a wonderful book on the shelf. I have several of those myself, but at the very least, if we can keep certain literature out there and alive, so to speak, by doing affordable reprints, then that's what I do, and I'll continue to do that. And it's an example of the books that I think you guys out there, who are fans and readers of Lost Continent Library books and Corvos books, my nonfiction division, which is what this is released under, Corvos. I pick books that I'm pretty sure you'll all appreciate and learn something from. Now, especially if you're a fan of Empire of the Wheel, okay? If you've read the first book, then you know exactly who I'm talking about and what I'm talking about. And it's a fantastic Poisonous Magnetism, this book about John Brown that I'm releasing here in the next 24 hours. It's a companion volume to Empire of the Wheel, completely a companion volume. Now, here in the local library, in the special collections room, is where I first saw this, and they have original hardbound copies of this very edition that I am releasing as a classic reprint okay? And when I first saw it, I loved it just because I am a bibliophile and I like the very physical nature of books, and this is just classic of its era. And like I said, I'm just really pleased to finally be bringing this out, because there's a lot of, if you're familiar with the book, I can't think of the author. It's called titled. That's a peeve of mine. Books are titled. They're not called anything. Okay? People are named. Sure, they might be called by a nickname, but when you're referring to someone formally in public, you should say a guy named such and such, a woman named so-and-so. I don't like this called thing. To me, that shows a certain... It's a lesser class way of speaking, and it doesn't help preserve the language. So books are titled, movies are titled, songs are titled, people are named. Okay, when calling is, that's more casual. So anyway, lecture over. Let's go back to what it was titled. There's a book titled Between Two Planets, I believe it is, and it's a classic book in the New Age history, right? When you go back in modern New Age history, so to speak, and I think the book itself is 100 years old or more, but it's got stuff like you'll find in Between Two Planets. It's got stuff you might find in Churchward, or any of the contactee stuff that emerged in the 1950s and 60s, especially that stuff. So it's really something, and I'm bringing it to you in an affordable printed edition. Why read it, on a computer screen when you can have a nice printed edition that you can mark up at will and carry around with you? Never deprive yourself of the experience of reading a physical book, Yes, I have a Kindle account. Yes, I have several books on Kindle. That's because I do so much research that, of course, I'm going to have Kindle. I'm going to, go to Gutenberg and all that stuff, because I have to access so much material that it's very practical for me to do this. But as a personal reader, and as a personal book collector, that's why I have shelves and shelves, I always know it's the beginning of the end of a relationship when she says, "Do you really need all these books?" That's when I know it ain't going to work out, because the answer is yes. I really need all these books. Right, Malia?
Always gonna be yes.
Yes. She says yes. Now, see, Malia looked at my books and said, "Oh my gosh, there's not enough." And I knew. The clouds parted, and I said, "At last," right? So I'm going to, for a few minutes, jump into the live chat and see if anyone, has any questions or comments.
Australians are on their way. They're time traveling.
The Australians are time traveling. They're on their way. Because remember, they're in the future, folks. From where I'm sitting, you folks that might be watching from Australia, they're already in the future. They're coming back in time to join us. So they are time travelers. Let me see. The distance of this screen is just so that my reading glasses are kind of weird.
You can bring it closer to you if you need to.
Craig Freeman says musicians get that relationship thing all the time. Red flag all the time. Yeah, right? Do you need that many guitars? Do you need that many records, albums? On the music front, by the way, we got our hands on a turntable, so we're going to be, collecting vinyl like the other hipsters out there. But I'm not going to identify the person. but he's an author friend of mine, and you should see his guitar collection. I mean, it's outstanding. He is a musician also. Let me see. Russell's asking a question about Napoleon. No, I haven't, Russell. But right now, I would like to kind of stay on the topic of psychic mediums and the risks and hazards they run in. I have a message.
Oh yeah, I got it down here.
From Anna Marie.
That's Luna.
That's Luna. Okay. I just think it makes good sense that one must be careful when dealing with the. Looks like we have Luna here, and what I can do is go ahead and bring her in. So, folks, I'd like to introduce you to Luna from Australia. Let me wait. What do I do? Oh, there we go. I'm going to add to the stream. There she is. Hello, Luna.
Hi, Walter. How you going? G'day.
Oh, I should have my headphones on. I gotta. Oh, wow. You know, I've been kind of yelling in the microphone. Has it sounded like I've been yelling, or does it sound nice? Okay. But now that I have my headphones on, I can go into my FM radio voice. Luna, how you doing? How are things in Australia tomorrow?
Beautiful, warm and sunny. And all nature's happy here. I don't know about the people, but nature's happy.
Well, I told everybody that you and Donny have traveled through time to be here, because it's yesterday for you, correct?
Yes, that's right.
There we go.
Started our week.
There we go. So why don't you describe yourself as? Do you call yourself a psychic medium? How do you refer to yourself in that regard?
I don't actually call myself anything other than gifted.
Okay, gifted.
People do call me different things. I've been called many things, and what you want to call me is up to you. I'm just a normal person, and I have tribal heritage, original people, and we are very spiritual people, just in a normal way. So most of the things that everyone sees as different and stuff like spirits and energy and healing, and there's a whole list of things. It's in traditional way, it was a part of life. Today, a lot of us are assimilated, and some people have forgotten, just like everyone else. But also, some people haven't forgotten, like me and Donny and other friends that I have. And we're still spiritually aware, and we still know tribal ways and stuff. Not everything. None of us know everything anymore, because it's been dismantled over time. But tapping into our ways opens it up for us, and we still see our ancestors and stuff like that. They do come to us in times of need, when we need assistance in whatever's happening, and we talk about it to each other openly, because it's a normal thing. And even those in the community that have kind of forgotten our ways, you can still talk to them about our ancestors sent me a message, or they were in a dream, whatever. And it's all normal. Whereas in mainstream society, when you start talking like that, they're like, whoa, are you a psychic? Are you a medium? Are you a medicine woman? Or what are you? So I try not to give myself a boxed name, because we, as a whole, normal thing. And some of us pursue it and some don't. I do have a name. I was given a tribal name for what I do as a healer and a weaver, because they recognised that the gift was in me. Because in the old days, they would have took me away when I was a kid, and I would have been trained up for it. But because we're assimilated like we are today, and everyone's just the same, it's a different thing. So, but I still do have input from my elders and ancestors and all that. So, by the way, my husband does, he's a white fella, he does do reading, he's a psychic medium, he does it on phone and stuff, right? But for me, it's different. And I feel that the gifts are given me, so I really try to give them free, but I also have to live as well. So most of the time I help whoever I can when I can with my gifts. What I notice about my gifts, but Walter, when I look at psychics and medium and that, I also help them when I can for free, because for me, I have a bit of everything. I'm not just one genre. Like, I can see spirits, hear them, see them. I can see the ancestors. I can kind of time travel. That's happened to me. I've got multiple gifts. It's like a multiple gift package. And in having that, how can I put it? My responsibility for having these gifts is to give back to people and help guide other people spiritually, whatever genre that they are in, or even if they're not spiritual, just to help them out. So
Great, great.
yeah.
Well, it looks like Donnie's here, so I'm gonna
Oh,
bring
good.
him
I'm
in.
waiting for him to arrive. Hey, my brother.
Yeah, Donnie, can you hear us?
Yeah, mate, everyone.
There he is. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. We were just.
Sorry about that. I had visitors.
Oh, hey, no problem. We're running late, so I thank you for showing up on a day when you have had visitors. So we were just talking with Luna about how she identifies herself and what she does. Donnie, why don't you, for the audience, how would you identify yourself as a psychic or a medium or such?
I usually just put myself down as I'm Donny. That's about the
good.
best I can do. Yeah, because
I like that.
How, for wanting a better word, I'm not no flash in and me. I'm just Donny.
Okay. And people, I would imagine people who know Donnie know that Donnie has these gifts.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a gift here and there, but nothing that as good as Luna there. But I get along. Yeah, I've got a bit of a back.
I think that represents a lot of people, right? You're some people have it stronger, some don't, and
Well,
I think everybody to varying degrees have these abilities.
Yeah, well, in our culture, mainly the women are actually stronger than the men in that spiritual sense.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they seem to be more in tune than men. You know what men folk are like. Yeah.
You know how it is. As guys, you're not really as encouraged. It really ties in. I'm not the first to say it. It ties into this whole thing about being in touch with your feelings, right? Because being in touch with your feelings also puts you more in touch with your intuition. Your intuition, your intuitive abilities, and because the males generally are pushed to not focus on those things, the ladies grow up totally being encouraged and free to explore that side of themselves. I'm a great believer in that. Men are actually, it's in there. They're equally as potentially powerful, but it's conditioning that keeps the most men from ignoring that side of their psyche.
Yeah. Well, first time I actually noticed that I had, for wanting a better word for psychic, whatever you want to call it. Now, it sounds weird, but I used to go into labour pains if any women were close to me, were pregnant and due to have that baby.
Wow.
And it is actually quite painful, I'm telling you.
I've heard. I've heard. Yeah, that's
because one time there, my brother's missus, she was going to have a baby, and at any rate, I started getting these pains in the gut and feel like someone trying to pull my legs apart or whatever you want to call it. And I said to one of my kids, they said, go ring your uncle up and ask that baby's coming. And
Oh, wow.
and they went and rung up and they said, oh, yeah, the baby, she's up at the hospital having in labour pains. And I knew straight away that she's going to have the baby.
Yeah. Wow. That must have been quite a powerful experience to have. Donny, what I want to ask you and Luna for starters, moving towards this question of tonight's episode, what has been the scariest experience you've had as someone with these gifts?
That's a hard one. What about you, Luna?
Walking around amongst people.
Yeah, that can be frightening enough, right?
Trying to fit into society.
Certainly if you're picking up on what some people are thinking, right?
Oh, look, yeah, like I said,
Yeah, that can be scary.
Part of the responsibility is you can't actually say a lot of the things you actually see and hear
Right.
and that from people. And when people know you and they get too close and they know you've got these gifts, they freak out and then you really don't see much anymore.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking, can you see what I've done? Can you see what I've done? Yeah, we can see what you've done, but ethically we don't say anything, and that's your
Right.
life and that's what you do. Unless you ask us, can you help us with that? We won't say anything. Unless you're a murderer or something. And then we'll go and seek other sources to take care of it.
I think most people would ask someone they know who's psychic that question only once if they get the yes, we know what you've done response, because then it's like, oh shoot, and they just don't want to think about someone knowing or asking those kind of questions again. But but has there been anything that was on the other side, so to speak, that truly kind of shook you, that rattled you, that it was so frightening or what have you, dark, if you will?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Because what I see, you know how I was saying a lot of things are normal to our people. So for me and Donny, what we see wouldn't necessarily scare us, but what other people see would,
Sure.
like that would scare them. I'm trying to think. Actually, some dreams I've had have kind of scared me, but they're not what people would think. 'Cause I'll tell you one dream. It was like reality, really. You understand, that time between sleep and reality, and that's still
Yes.
real. But
Yeah.
this didn't scare me. I just went into action. But when I tell people, they're like, ah. So there was a dark entity. You could call it an alien-looking thing, but it was a dark entity.
Right.
I'm telling you. And I woke up, and it was sitting here, and it was just about to get me. And when I woke up, I realised what was going on, and I got it instead, and it freaked out. It was scared. No, it was more scared than I was because I just took action. So those things don't scare me. But I'm trying to think of the dream I had the other day that scared me, and it would probably be a normal dream for everybody else.
Have either one of you ever felt threatened by something that meant you harm, that you sensed, or you just felt
Yeah.
threatened?
Yeah, I've had that, and then you just go into action again. You just go
Right.
into action,
Sure.
depending on what it was. I suppose what might have put hairs on me back, I went out and stayed with Brother Donny, and we've been all day. We went to special places, and obviously the entities in those areas were aware of us. So this particular night, something come back to suss out who we were. Now, as I say to Brother Donny, sometimes things are so strong you can think they're negative. It's just the power of the energy. This was like that. I knew it wasn't going to hurt us. It wasn't have no bad intentions, but the power of this entity was very strong, to the point where my friend who was with me came running back into the van in the middle of the night because she had to relieve herself, saying, look, I know I've been with you long enough to know what's good, what's bad, and what's not human and what is human. but whatever's out there is scaring the shit out of me. And I just laughed because she felt it too, right? And I'd said, don't worry, we're just being observed, just act normal. So that wasn't so much as in scary, it was more scary, wow, that is a powerful being come to
Sure,
observe.
sure. And it sounds like, in your case, and in the cases of many people, is you acknowledge that there are these dark things out there, but it's really in how you handle yourself, right? It's how your own demeanor. And you're right. A lot of these things would scare the average person, but you're used to it. It sounds like. Donnie, is that the same for you? That it's just such a
Yeah.
normal part of your life that it doesn't
Yeah, well,
freak you out?
what people call paranormal, is that the right word that you use, Luna? Paranormal?
Yeah.
Mm,
We consider that normal.
I would
You
agree.
understand what I mean? Like all the stories we were told when we was kids and when we was growing up and all that is basically not normal for our spirituality. You have, what you call the bad fellas and the good fellas and the in-between fellas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, we sort of grew up with that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, there is some stuff out there that's really spooky. Like, I believe that when Luna and her friend came up and stayed with me, I think that, for want of a better word, creature, that kind of checked them over. We call him the Crocodile Man.
Crocodile Man. Oh. I was just going to ask you. My understanding is, Donnie, that you kind of live out in the countryside, right?
Yeah, I live in a little small town, just probably 6.5 hours away from Luna.
Would you? Well, have you encountered anything out in the wilds that you felt like you sensed because of your psychic awareness that maybe others would have no clue is out there?
Yeah. Basically come across things like that. But I'll tell you a little story.
Mm-hmm.
One time up bush there, and there's a little place there they call what they call a murder dog, and it's a little bit of a clearing way out in the wild scrub there. Anyway, it was about 11, 12 o'clock at night, and they were coming through with my old valiant, and all of a sudden she just died, completely died. And no spark, no nothing, no lights, no nothing. Anyway, all I had was just a cigarette lighter, and I'm out there, and I opened the bonnet up there, and I'm trying to find out what's wrong with the old car. And and I was there by myself, and it was pitch black. And when you get that feeling that it's somebody else is there with you. And next minute, when I was leaning out into the engine bay, this arm hand came and touched me on the shoulder. And I swung around, and I couldn't see no one. Couldn't see no one. No one was there. And then all of a sudden, all the lights and everything came back on the car, and I took off. And I didn't stick around. I was only a young fella back then, But there's what do you call it? There's good entities, and you got what you call the bad entities.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was a good entity there that night, or was it a bad entity. But after it touched me on the shoulder, the car come to life again. So that could have been a good entity. I don't know.
Well, I think there's, I would say that a neutral entity can be just as potentially scary, right, as a bad entity, because the neutral entity, by its very definition, doesn't care. It just is, right?
In some places, we call them sentinels. They're there to protect something.
Okay.
Sentinels.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
would that
Because
be protecting things like perhaps sacred sites or just individuals mostly?
well, it's sacred sites and places where you shouldn't go.
Hmm.
And it's like we've got places around here that you shouldn't go,
Hmm.
and we try to explain to white fellas, you don't go there. You didn't, it's just a bad place, you know.
Yeah.
And there's another place there that's out towards about nearly a 2 hour drive from here.
Hmm.
Um, Now it's got sentinels on it, and the little creek beside it. So you got to listen to what the old fellas have put name these creeks and things, and mountains and mountain ranges and things like that. We named them for a reason, right? And now this little creek, it says who goes there. It meant that you shouldn't be going there, right? Now he's got sentinels there trying to ward off people not to go there.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Like here there be tigers on the old maps, right? If
yeah,
they
yeah,
wanted you
yeah.
to stay away from something. Now, what about have either maybe both of you have stories about this, but in these places where you shouldn't go, are there cases wherein people have gone there, and what consequence did they suffer, if any?
Well, I can tell you a little bit of a story about a young lady. Oh, she was in her teens. Um, she went to a men's business site when she was a young girl, and because she shouldn't have never went there, she went there with a couple other white fellas as well, and it nearly killed her. Like they couldn't, the doctors couldn't figure out what's wrong with her, and it took a long time before she came better, but she shouldn't have been there because it's a men's business site. You don't go there on a men's business site. It's like me when I accidentally went across a woman's business site. I had a heart attack and nearly died. So the sentinels there, they're not bad, but
Right.
they're there to protect that land because it's a special site.
Sure. Sure.
I accept my punishment for going on that woman's site, but uh, the trouble was I had actually got, can't think of the word they use for it, like precognition, not to
Mm-hmm.
go there, but I still went there.
Yeah.
That was my punishment. I shouldn't have went there because they already told me, don't go there. See, what happened is we went there with the archaeologist. And the first thing that happened,
Okay.
the archaeologist lady got the four-wheel drive bogged, and that was the first indication. The second indication was she nearly ran over a lollipop man. That's the bloke with holes out the signs, stop-go sign. And the third one was the most important. I should have realised there and then I shouldn't have went. We conducted a smoking ceremony, and the smoking ceremony didn't quite go right then.
Mm-hmm.
I should have turned around and went home that day,
Mm.
but I didn't because I was on a job. And these archaeologists have got a bad habit of saying, well, you've got to be on that job regardless. You understand what I mean?
No, yeah.
So we have got places where you shouldn't go, where men folk
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't go, women folk shouldn't go, and other people shouldn't go. You know, all people shouldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's more of a sign of respect.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
because
These sites are, I imagine these sites date back ages ago, right? I mean,
yeah, thousands of years.
right, right. Luna, Have you had any kind of experience similar to what Donnie had when he went to the place he shouldn't have gone?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things I can tell you here in that area. So, all right, so this goes. I was thinking about the scariest thing what happened to me as well. This story is both. I'll tell you what happened. So in the area I live here, I live near a river, and what we have, as Donny said, men's and women's areas. When my girls were young, I had a dog, and it was a female dog as well. We all went down the river, and I was new to this area, and it's not like we got our own mob saying when you go move to a new house, right? You haven't got your mob saying, "Oh, don't go here, don't go there," because there might not be anyone else around you that's Aboriginal, right? In that area, you don't know, and you got to seek them out, and they might not know some of the places. Well, what I didn't know till after was when we went for a walk down the river, we walked in the men's area, and Walter, I was scared for me, and I was scared for my children, and I was even scared for my dog because she was a girl. So I'll tell you what happened. We're walking down, it was just a dirt path, trees on both sides, beautiful place, river on one side, and we're walking, and we'd been walking for a while already, and we just walked into this area. And because we're all happy and girls and young kids, we're just mucking around and running around. The dog's all happy running around. And we walked up, and then all of a sudden I stopped, and this dread come over me. And I'm thinking, what's this dread? And as I turned around, the path, everything changed, Walter. The trees came across like this, and the whole scenery changed. We weren't where we were. And I realised the reason I was scared, because I knew I'd walked in the men's area, and the punishment could be death of some kind, or even to be taken away from now, and me and my girls and our dog could have been put in another place and never come back. And as I turned around, I realised the dog didn't even know how to get out. The dog saw that the scenery had changed and the trees had come over each other like this, and she turned around to me for help. And she grew up around here, running all around the river and everything. And when I saw her fear, that's when the dread hit my stomach. And I just looked up to Creator and yelled out to the ancestors, I'm really, really sorry. I know I've walked into a wrong place, but I didn't know what it was. Please forgive me. And I was very respectful. And they know in your heart if you're right. And luckily for me, it was all good, and it was an accident. And then the bush opened up like this again, and everything went back to normal. And the dog went like that, as she saw it go back to normal, and she just ran out, and I said, come on girls, let's get out of here. And I've never gone back there since. That was scary to me. That was very scary, because I think more so for my children. But if I was alone and that happened, I would have been a bit more scared, because I probably would have been more likely something to happen.
Well,
So that was
you
the
know,
first thing, and that's men's working in the men's area. Lucky I didn't have a heart attack.
that sounds a lot like what you described there. That sounds like what people have encountered or experienced when they've encountered, reportedly, the fairy folk, right? Where the use of the glamoury, I think it's called, where they make themselves, look like something else, to the human eye perceiving them. And it sounds like, it was a very similar form, that maybe whoever was there used glamoury to make you see something other than what was there, as a means of freezing you in your tracks, right? Because you were startled, you were scared. It's like, oh, where am I? What's going on? I'm really intrigued by what you said about being taken away to someplace. Where would that have been, to your knowledge, or are you supposing?
With the ancestors, it's like spirit world.
Okay.
I'll tell you, there's a place in the desert. Friends of mine went there to see their people, and they had children, and they all went there for a picnic with the locals, their family, obviously. When the day was done, the elders said to my friends, watch the children. The old ones will take your children. Right, not a bad thing. They'll take them spiritually, right, and teach them stuff, and then put them back. And sure enough, they lost their youngest boy, and everyone was searching, and they went out because they thought maybe he walked out or something. So they all went and left where they were camped, went out and they were searching for hours. And when they come back, there he was just standing in the campsite. And the ancestors had taken him like the old elders had told them. But he was uninjured and all that. It was just a spiritual thing. That's what I mean. It's normal. There are places like that. And they talk about the hairy men and all that. They use them places. They know how to walk through them doors. Yeah. And our very old, clever men, they know how to walk through them doors. And if you accidentally, I think, like accidentally walking through one, you'll go, oh no, what the hell is going on? But you just say, I'm sorry, you just talk to them. Because their world and our world is thinner than a piece of paper sideways, you know what I mean? It's simultaneous. They watch, they can see everything we do. So if you ever feel like you watch, that's what it is. They're looking at you. That's why pure of heart and soul, they know that, and you'll be okay.
You said you had two kind of eerie stories to tell us.
Yeah.
What was your other one?
Another one was I had two old women pick me up, and they wanted to take me up the coast so I could stay at their house and we could talk with the older lady. This is when I was younger and my kids were young. And silly me, this is why I like to know where I'm going. Silly me jumped in the car with them and went there. Well, on the way, they saw this beautiful bridge, and it was just a beautiful area. I must admit, it was beautiful. And they stopped and got out. These were non-Aboriginal women. They got out and they ran over to the other side of the road and went down under the bridge. And they're yelling out to me, you should come out and see this. It's a beautiful place. And I looked and I went, oh, it is beautiful. And I went to get out the car. As soon as my feet touched the ground, I got severe hiccups. I mean, really severe, painful hiccups. I lifted my feet off the ground back into the car. They disappeared. And straight away I went, oh, no, I'm not supposed to be here. Then I tested it out again, put my feet on the ground, severe hiccups, lifted them up. It stopped. And around the window down, I just yelled out, hey, hurry up, I can't be here. So I dread to think what would happen if I didn't listen to that and I'd got down and went under the bridge where they were. And as we were driving away, I looked back to see, and there was an old Aboriginal man spirit, and I would have been on his territory. And it must have been in his area as well because I got severe hiccups. So things like that. One more story. Sorry.
I was just going to say the average person, as we said, would probably, the things you two, for you are just run of the mill or just part of the deal. These are the things, that probably would have unsettled, the average person experiencing them just simply because they don't know exactly what it is they're facing, what they're experiencing. And they certainly don't know how to, wouldn't know how to handle themselves. Jumping tracks a little bit, Donny, where you're out there, out where you're at, out in the country, are there any groups of people that, say, practice the dark arts, black magic, that kind of thing, that people know are practitioners of not so good stuff that you avoid them or such? Is there anything like that? Any black magic culture out there where you're at in the countryside?
Not, pardon me, not to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But the trouble is you're on somebody else's country. If you've got to do magic not from that area, it can come back and hit you in the face. For wanting a better word, like this country's been occupied for thousands and thousands of years, and all that spiritual energy has gone into this country, and it will push back. Than any other like culture, like let's say Western culture, brings their type of magic here. It rebels against it, and it could cause the person who's doing it harm.
Mm-hmm. Sure. They say that's kind of the rule of how the the universe, the karma, or whatever works is, what you throw at somebody with bad intent just comes back at you twice or three times as bad, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I was told by an old lady, what you're doing on that spiritual side,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's good or bad, it'll come back to you tenfold.
Tenfold. Whew.
Yeah.
Well, Luna, what about where you're at? Because you're more, are you in the suburbs? You in the city?
Yeah, I'm in the edge of the suburbs, right before the mountains. At the
Okay.
bottom of the mountains. I used to live up the top, but we come back
Yeah.
down.
Are there any? Are there any? Folks doing, the dark arts, the black magic in your area?
Yes, we do actually.
Hmm.
And when my cousin was alive, she was right into that. She was such a staunch woman, I tell you. She was right into that stuff, protecting children and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she informed me when I first met her, because I didn't know her all my life, because we were a stolen generation. They take away family members and you don't know where they are until later. Anyway, she told me that around where I live is a major circle and stuff, and I'm like, wow, and that would explain a lot of things, because the mountains run straight across me. I'm looking all the way across here, and the things that I felt, I haven't actually been in these places because I won't poke a bear, right? I won't poke a bear until the bear's in my face. So I know these things are around me, and the levels that they go to. And the best I can do is when they are doing things and I detect it, is just to put a lot of the opposite energy in there to try and counteract it. And until people are totally aware of what's going on in the world, we'll just fight quietly like that until everyone stands up. That's the best I can say, because you know what I'm talking about, that you walk over there. And we don't speak about the dark things in our culture, because when you speak about something, you call it to yourself. So we try not to say.
Yeah, that's to sing it up.
Yeah, sing it up, we call it. And you can actually sing it. Yeah, you can actually sing it. Singing's a really important part.
Is it like the concept of the tulpa, where you're thinking about something and your energy focusing on it can actually manifest it?
No, it's more like, kinda. It's more like ringing a bell and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," and all the other things are like, "Bing, I know what you're doing," and you call them in. The energy in Australia, the spiritual energy, is very different. I feel from everywhere else.
Yeah. Well, as far as I know about singing up, is it can heal or it can kill.
Yeah.
It's usually done by a group of elders, mostly. It was used at one time if you done broke law in the mob, and they send you punishment, either death or sickness, or they can use it to heal somebody who is sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use it as send a message to somebody overseas by singing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's very powerful. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it.
Well, have either one of you ever had an entity ask you or want you to do something that you refused because, it was questionable?
Kinda.
Yeah.
How do I talk about that? In the spirit world, there are no fences and no walls. So imagine a world where there's no obstruction of sight. You know, Walter, remember not long ago we were together And that one spirit had a limited time because all the other spirits were being alerted that he was talking to us, because there's no walls and no fences. And sometimes the other side listens, the dark side listens. You got to be careful. Oh man, it's like a can of worms, that question.
Bouncing all over the shop, eh?
Yeah, hey. Put it this way, every now and again, as we get stronger, we get offers. And it's up to the individual whether they take them offers or refuse them, to what kind of person they're going to be and what kind of spiritual person they're going to be. And that's what makes the good and the bad ones. That's the best I can say. But they will keep offering right up to the very end, because the good workers, they want the good workers, and yeah. So, and it goes into faith. Like, most people are religious, and you can like have a religious lens and look at it. And the way to translate that into a religious lens would be a devout Christian, and the devil comes and tempts him every now and again to the right. But we don't see it that way. There's a world full of people, there's a world full of spirits, and there's a world full of energy and entities, right? Even trees have their own energy, you know. There's good trees and bad trees. And you know that some trees have really bad spirits.
That's interesting.
Don't go near that tree because it's a bad spirit. It's like a person. That's a bad person. Don't go near them.
Yeah, because I remember old uncle used to say to me, he says, when you go up bush there, he said, watch out for those window makers. And there's some trees that'll deliberately drop branches on you.
They'll kill you.
Yeah, they'll kill you.
Kind of like a scarier version of the apple trees in The Wizard of Oz, if you recall. I always like that one tree that says, "Are you saying my apples aren't what they're supposed to be?" And yeah. So
I know
go
one
ahead,
woman, Walter, she deliberately went onto a man's site and did something, and she nearly died. She actually came to me freaking out 3 times in a row. She nearly died, and these weird accidents were happening to her. And I had to ask her, "What have you done?" And when she told me what I was doing, I literally had to save her life. But the point, what happened is, she didn't. Remember how I said from heart and spirit they know? She didn't say sorry, I was disrespectful good enough. She like only half did it, so she's still being haunted by it.
Okay.
And it's not so much as a dark spirit that's doing it. The sentinel, what Donny was talking about, those spirits that are in charge of certain things, they're the ones after her. You know, they're not good or bad, they're just doing their job. And their job is to protect that area of people that do the wrong thing. Yeah.
Sure. Do you have either of you or both of you? Is there much what I would call spiritual or New Age tourism that brings people down there that kind of gets in the way of things or brings them that brings them in any kind of danger or hazard?
Yeah, we got a policy on that one. We don't go looking for it. It comes looking for us. Yeah, that's the best way I could describe it. But we do not go looking for those type of entities. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because over the years you get told these things. You don't go looking for it.
Right, but some entities can approach, like the proverbial wolf in sheep's clothing. They can approach you with love and light, and then at some point, begin to turn.
On you,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the ones you got to look out for, because they use that cloak to try to get across to you. And you got to be saying, well, you got to be careful there. Like, right, are you for real, or BSing me. So you got to. It's like a spiritual war, for want of a better word.
Sure.
Yeah. So you're going to get ones that's going to say, "Oh, I'm a good fella," but really I'm a bad fella, eh? And you get ones that say, "I'm a bad fella," but actually I'm a good fella, but I come across you as a bad fella.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right?
Okay.
So you got to work your way through that. It's like a big giant maze.
Do either one of you consider or what are some of the phenomena that on the surface people don't associate with, the spirit realm, so to speak, the other side, but actually upon closer inspection they might take, say for instance, UFOs. Do you two come at this, the subject of UFOs, as being they're definitely from another planet, or do you see them as coming from the other side, so to speak, or other phenomena?
In some ways, me and Luna's got two different opinions on that. In some ways, we've got the same opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They could be from outer space, yes.
Sure.
They could be from a different dimension, yes. Or they could be locals.
Locals? What? Elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, that goes like, if you read up through the history, civilization that came and gone about 5 times, I think it is, or we are the 5th one. Now, there could be remnants of them still around today.
I like that.
Yeah. The other one is these so-called UFOs could be time machines as well.
I like that. Yeah. Now you said that you and Luna have differing opinions. Luna, what's your view on this same question?
Oh, same, but when it comes to space, I have a different view, and I call them the others because they've always been here, and they come from the extra land.
Okay.
They're extraterrestrial. Extra means more land.
And
sure. Some of these places are far away, don't get me wrong, and they do need sophisticated travelling machines. But this is what I say to people, Walter. If I got in a machine here in Australia and you never saw it, no one's ever seen it, and I went up in the sky and flew over to your country, and you saw me flying across, you'd think I come from the sky.
Right. Sure.
That's the word locals.
They're locals.
Yeah. And those are both, what you're saying and what Donnie said. These are ideas that people that watch my channel know that I subscribe to. The idea that there are others sharing this planet, this world with us. That the way Donnie put it, they were the civilization that was here before, and when everything kind of has to redo, so to speak, they weren't completely wiped out. They didn't completely go away, and they're still here, watching over us, I guess, you could say. And who knows what their technology is, or the extent of their knowledge on, these strange esoteric things, metaphysical things are concerned.
Yeah.
So,
well, the other. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, who knows if maybe, it's not them doing these things that we take for, it would be paranormal, that we take for, sometimes the dead or what have you.
That's where discernment comes in. When you're looking at this, is what I say to people: when a spirit or an energy comes in, you ask questions. You don't just go, "Oh, there's a spirit here. This is what's different." oh, there's
Sure.
spirit here who wants to talk to me. It's like someone just walked through your front door. You want to know who they are, where they come from, what they're doing, right? You don't know them. Why would you do the same for a spirit? So I'm real staunch on that area. It's like they know when they deliver me messages, they're really, really a bit afraid because I'll be like, who are you? Watching, where do you come from? And I'll watch them. And if a spirit flickers or an energy keeps flickering, right, and doesn't stay in its form, don't trust it because it's having trouble holding that form while you're shining light on it. Do you get it?
Okay. Yeah,
And
that's
if it
interesting.
can't hold its form because it's not showing you its true form, right? So you want to see its true form. You want to know who's walking through your front door, who's standing next to you and wants to communicate with you, whatever the case may be. You want to know who it is, where they come from, what their message is, why they're there, and who their boss is. Because out of everything we do, even though we might say it's a bit strange to religious people, the one thing in our culture is Creator, God, whatever you want to call it, is number one. And our laws are so defined that you can get killed for breaking Creator's laws. That's our old way. You'll get punished severely. So what I say to people from any walk of life, get yourself right with Creator. Whatever your belief is, get yourself right with Creator before you do anything,
Sure.
approach anything spiritual, you know.
In
From
my mind,
from either of your perspectives, beings like, for example, do demons exist in your opinion?
Yeah, we don't call them demons though. That's the religious
yeah, that's what
land.
religious, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Go
closest one to I know of what you call demons is the crocodile man.
Oh, yes. Tell us
Yeah,
more about the crocodile man. This sounds really interesting.
yeah, he's supposed to be a half brother to Biami. Biami is what my mob call a creator, but we don't call them creator. We call them sky heroes. All right? Now, he was, for want of a better word, he was a bad bugger. It started off with blue between Biami and Crocodile Man. I can't say his real name because if I say his real name, that's to sing him up. You understand what I mean? If I were to say his real name, that's to sing him up. That's like calling him. Right? But I'll just call him the Crocodile Man. But he has got a real name, but I'm not going to know how to say it over this. One time, Biami gave him 3 women, and he took these 3 women for wives. And one night he got hungry, so he ate 2 of the women, and this angered Biami. And ever since then, they've been blowing. And now this old crocodile fella, he got the taste for young women, and he goes after them. He if he try to get onto you, he's really hard to get rid of because he's hard to get him to back off, or for wanting a better word, use fellas would say kill. I'm trying not to say too much because some of this is actually what do you call it? Very restricted spiritual stuff, for wanting a better word. But it can present a danger to your children, because especially to the young ones, the young women, young girls, because he tried to latch on to my daughter there one time. We had to do a lot of ceremony and a lot of tricks to get him to back off. Because he's a bad fella. For want of a better word, he's a bad fella. I can't say really too much because some I don't know, some I do, and some I can't tell. You understand what I mean? Yeah, because some things I cannot tell you.
Well, with these entities now, this, for either one of you, what about the phenomena of possession, or any of the other stages? Possession, oppression, control. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I've seen
Yes,
it.
I have. Yeah, yeah. But this possessed. What do you call that word? Possessed, is it?
Mm-hmm.
It could seduce because you've gone to some places where you shouldn't go on, and if you don't do the right ceremony when you go into these places, they can get into you, and they will torment you because you're going in there. They're not bad, not 90% of them, but they're just doing what they've been there for,
Mm-hmm.
to look after some place, and you've gone there with bad intentions or
Right.
being naive. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. But what about that 10% that are bad? What can you tell us about them?
There is some out there. I can't just name some off the top of my head, but there is some out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Dreamstein stories about. I believe you fellows call it. What do you call that fellow there? I can't think of his name. He's a spiritual fellow, but it's a wolfman, or is it? I know you've got him over there in America. What do they call it?
Oh, Sasquatch or Bigfoot?
No, the other fellow. One that looks like a
Dogman.
dog.
Dogman.
Yeah. There's one there they call the Devil's Dingo. He's
The Devil's
he
Dingo.
can-
That's interesting.
Yeah, we call him the Dingo Man.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He can be a bad spirit.
Mhm.
I don't know too much about him, but he can be a really bad spirit. He can, what's that other word? Shape change.
Mm-hmm.
Shapeshifter.
He can look like, a dingo, or he could look like a human, or he could look like a kangaroo,
Mm-hmm.
or he could look like a dingo man, half dingo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he can be a bad fella. And see, a lot of them old spirits, they got a bad habit of trying to trick you all the time.
Sure.
Even the good ones
Sure.
and the bad ones.
Sure.
Yeah, one of the uncles in our local community, when he does a talk, he puts energy on, watch out for the shapeshifter, watch out for the shapeshifter. That's like his number one watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
Implying that even though we live in normal kind of living and we're not way out in the bush, that the shapeshifter still walks amongst us. So he's warning me, always will say that in the talk when we're together, watch out for the shapeshifters. And obviously he's telling us, watch out, they're around us. That's what another thing I was going to say, Walter, that living with humans, you've got to watch out, because these things aren't just out in the bush, these things are inside humans. I've seen them.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You know, I've seen
true.
people and gone, wow. Me and my husband, there was a fellow come to our house and he came with another person and everything seemed all quite good on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he left, we looked at each other and I said to him, the first thing I said to my husband, does he know who he is? And he goes, no. I went, thank God for that. This bloke, he was someone walking around spiritually, but he didn't know who he was. So consciously, he was just a normal person like everyone else. But spiritually, he was not someone you'd want around, but he didn't know that. So I don't know how that pans out. I'm not inclined to keep someone around to find out, right? But they exist in people. And they can pass. I've seen things pass from one person to another, around people. I've seen that. So
I've seen that happen.
gone away. Yeah. I worked in a place once. They built a shopping centre, a community centre, and houses around this particular area.
Mm-hmm.
And when I worked for this place, they're like, "Oh, I'm glad you're here. This place is haunted." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's a community centre and a shopping centre." They're going, "No, we're telling you." Anyway, after working there for a while, the incidents had started. You could hear things, people talking, shouting, you could feel this energy. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? One day I was there all by myself and mimicking, also mimicked. Because one of the workers thought it was me at the door when they went and opened it, and there was no one there. And I arrived 20 minutes later, and they went, "I thought you were here earlier." I went, "No, that wasn't me." Anyway, this particular time I was there all by myself, and I felt it come up behind me, and it was strong, and it gave you a bit of a wobbly leg, and I thought, but it's not going to kill anyone, right? And then I said, "I know you're here, what's happening?" And all I heard was disrespect, disrespect. There's no respect. And then I realised what was going on. Just outside the shop in the centre is a big waterway. It used to be a water place, and there were healing herbs and that growing there. And now people would only visit that place and leave because of respect, right? It's a healing place. And it's for everyone, so you don't monopolise it in any way, shape or form. And you give back your respect to the spirits and Creator and the Mother for providing these healing medicines, right? So they went and built a place on top. Just because they built a place on top and that water place has been directed into a pipe doesn't mean the spirits have left. And the sentinel in that area was still working. And he was annoying people to the point of scaring them to death nearly, because no one was paying attention and respecting them. There was nothing we could do, obviously. You can't knock the buildings down and stuff. But that just gives you an idea that just because we go along in our lives, these spirits and entities are still there. So a lot of the times people will build their home on a major place and they'll ring someone up like me and Donny and say, "Can you come out and cleanse it? I'm having trouble." And you get there and look around and go, "Sorry, I can't help you," because no matter what I'm going to do, you can't change what's happening in the land.
Yeah, it's so true.
True. Well, we're down to, we got about a little under 20 minutes left, and what I would like to do is bring in the live chat room and present questions. If anyone in the live chat has a question of Luna or Donny on tonight's topic and things generally related to it, remember to put that in all caps, please. Write your question in all caps so that I can know that it's a question for the guests. Okay? And let me see if we have anything yet. It usually takes a moment for the chat to show up with the questions, a question to show up in the chat, I should say. Now, due to your proximity, I'm curious about any kind of phenomena or weird activity relative to Antarctica, because you're a lot closer to Antarctica than I am here. Is there any Antarctica related stuff that Australians experience?
Yep. Okay. For start, years and years ago, I was sent on a mission to go and check it out and report back about what was going on down there. Now everyone's trying to get a gist of what's going on down there. What they would believe you to know and what you know is true. It's different. So, how do you know what are you?
Oh, this is the first question here is he's asking when Donny was talking about and you were talking about places that are a male place, females aren't supposed to go there, and vice versa. What he's asking, how is that designated? Is that by the activity people go there, or is it literally an energy thing? How do you describe? How do you know a place is for men or a place for women?
Tree of my bull. For want of a better gut feeling. And plus, I don't know about white fellas if they do it. It's sort of like a gut feeling, like you shouldn't be there. the best thing is to say is sorry and turn around and go back. For want of a better word, that's about it. I can think of, but you do get this really feeling inside you, like you're not supposed to be there, and you have to leave.
Okay, so it's like you said, it's intuitive.
Yeah, I've actually had to just put in my mind, get out, get out, get out.
Ah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I've also seen men unconsciously stop. There was a whole heap of us. We were out in the rainforest. There was a heap of women, heap of men, and we're just walking through this paddock. All of us are talking, and then all of a sudden, us women stopped and turned around, and the men they didn't even realise this had happened to them. They stopped dead like there was an invisible line, and they were all just talking to each other still. And we turned around, looked at them, and looked at each other, and we knew straight away it was women's area because something unconsciously stopped them, and they didn't even know they were stopped until
That's interesting.
we let them know, hey, we'll see you later. We just kept walking and waved and said, we'll see you later. And they just knew. Yeah, I found that interesting because they weren't native men.
Okay.
They
So it's an intuitive, kind of thing. Reading the room, as it were, energy-wise.
Yeah.
It's reading the bush.
Yeah.
For want of a better word, reading the bush. If you don't
Okay,
understand
I like
what you're
that.
looking at. Yeah. Now, the other thing too, especially on men's sites, now, you've got to be initiated to go to that site.
Okay.
I'm an uninitiated man. I only went through 2 ceremonies so far. That doesn't give me the ability to go onto that site.
Right.
Any such, say, one site. Right? Now, if you ever look at the old fellas, the photos of the old fellas, they've got scars all over. See, on their chest, on their arms, mainly on the chest.
Okay.
That's initiation scars. Every time they look at that scar, that's the knowledge that was given to them. And that's the initiation. And they look at another scar, that's another knowledge that was given to them. And they know what to do with that knowledge.
Okay.
Now, so when they go onto a men's business site, they're allowed there because they're initiated. They know the knowledge. They know the stories. Right?
Okay. That makes sense.
When you go, when you go onto a site like, say, a rock art site, them all is just not paintings. That's actually a story. And if you go, you can read that story if you know the knowledge of that story, and that story was handed down to you.
Right.
Right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So if I was an uninitiated man, if I went onto that site, that's disrespectful. That's breaking law.
Sure. Yeah. And it sounds like you're breaking a law of nature too. It sounds like so. So I get that. That's okay. The next question, Philip Blair asks: do you know anyone or who's encountered something like Sasquatch in Australia, Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
I'll put my hand up.
Ah, okay.
You put your hand up too, Luna.
I haven't seen him, but he wasn't far away from me, and I lived on a property where they lived, and we lived in harmony, kind of. They go invisible, so they could be standing right next to you, looking at you, and you wouldn't even know it.
Now, you're talking about the Yowie, aren't you?
Yeah, I think you guys, it's what where you would call the Yowie down there.
Yeah, well, there's several different types of Yowies. You got the water dog. You got Yowie. Then you got the little people. Then you got Yuri. Yuri is sort of like a Yowie, but he's very spiritual.
Okay.
He's more spiritual than us, would you believe?
Interesting.
Now, most people, especially our mob, if they actually came across them when they were young, they come more spiritual. I'm knowing about 3 or 4 people who actually had an Yowie encounter
Mm-hmm.
became more spiritual, especially women,
Okay.
after they had the Yowie encounter, because they can be, how would you want to put it? In some ways, they're more powerful than us in
Sure.
that spiritual aspect. They can disappear, reappear somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
They can talk to you through your mind. They can project things into your mind, like you could be standing in front of a yowie, yet you're probably looking at a tree stump. Do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Now, uh,
Sure.
they also can help you with like your spirituality as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's.
Now, you also got the bad ones too.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a good and a bad one in every mob in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for want of a better word, bad fellas. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But they're basically the protectors of the bush. Now the
Okay.
little ones, they they're cheeky buggers. You don't see them. Adults don't see them as much as kids do because they
Right.
got a tendency to hang around children more
Sure.
than they do with adults because they relate to children more better.
Mm-hmm.
But they can be tricky as well because the old uncle was saying when he used to be a drover. Yeah, I don't know what you fellas call a drover over there.
A driver?
No, moving stock from one place to another, like cattle and sheep.
Hobo.
No, not a hobo.
A cowboy?
A drover.
A cow.
Oh, cowboy that drifts from one ranch to the other.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
kind of what a lot of
yeah,
cowboys do. I get you. A drifter.
yeah,
They. You know.
yeah. They move cattle and sheep around.
Sure.
We call them drovers over here.
Oh, drovers.
Yeah, drovers.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he used to set up camp, and he said to these little people who used to come in, he said, take all the tucker and mess up the camp. And they can be tricky sometimes.
Sounds
Like
like
you're
it.
going through the bush, go in the bush, they'll whisper out your name or make funny noises,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And you can look around, you won't see them. Occasionally they do get what's that word? That when you take a camera, a photograph, they do show up.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Now the water dog fella,
Uh-huh.
he lives in a certain big hole or billabong, and what he does, he can be a bad bugger. The old fellas tell you that you might be able to swim in this pond or billabong. He says, don't go down that area down there. That's where the water dogs live. They don't like you down there. And if you go down there, they'll pull you under and drown you and kill you.
Kind of sounds a little like the Jenny Greenteeth figure that is also in folklore. The little girl with the green teeth who, the same thing. And of course they say the sirens and the mermaids do that as well. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really familiar. We have our next question. Princess Sunny asks, how would a person know if they are possessed? And what would one do about it? Well, the obvious is, certain clergy have an understanding on how to identify that. And also what to do about it. Is there something akin to exorcism in this culture of natural psychics, what's the version of exorcism down there outside of the church?
Singing up.
Singing, yeah, we'd use smoking and singing, and if it was real bad, we'd be more than one of us. Usually one of us could handle something like that, depending on the level and the person. But I'll tell you, what you see on TV in reality are different, right? It's not like what you see on TV. They don't turn their head around and have fangs, right? It's more, you got to be realistic. The person does change. Most of the time, the person who is affected probably doesn't even realise they are. They just think, oh, I like being like this, I'm cool. Their attitude will change. Believe it or not, a lot of people that are on heavy drugs, whether it be from the doctor or from the street, get susceptible to a spirit attachment because they've been compromised by the drugs. And it's hard to do things like that until they stop taking the drug and close up their protection. These things are going to touch on and go, I can get you. And then they'll use everything on you. I have seen blackfellas, I wouldn't call it possessed though. It's like the elder spirits need a message to go somewhere, so they occupy the person's body, and that person goes for a journey, delivers the message, and then they leave, and the person's like, fuck, how did I get here? What have I done? And it wasn't a bad possession thing, it was just their way of delivering the message, and that person was the person to do it.
Otherwise, they got behind the driver's wheel.
Sure.
Yeah.
But a person, if you know yourself really well, and then you start changing, you'd probably realise there's something going on around you that ain't right, and then you go to either a religious person or someone like me and Donny or psychic, whatever, who's somebody that knows that field, and say to them, hey, I'm having trouble, and they'll see it. They'll look in your eyes, just look around you, and see that there's not nice energy trying to control you. But you have to know yourself. A lot of people don't know themselves, and it's usually people around them that say, hey, you're acting like an idiot, or you're being mean, you're being selfish, or you're not yourself, what's going on? And depending on what kind of lifestyle they have would depend on what their next step was. It's the whole realm is variable. It's like martial arts. You learn martial arts to protect yourself, but you don't know until the fight's happening what skill you're actually going to use that you learned. Because are they going to, are they trying to grab you? Are they trying to come at you with something?
Right.
You don't know what to do.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, same sort of thing. Yeah. You've got all these tools, and we've been educated up to deal with these things. Until it actually happens, you don't know what you're going to use.
Okay. This next question is really interesting. This is from Philip Blair. If a two-spirited Native American shaman visited Australia, would they be welcome in female only, or in other words, what he's asking is, would they be treated like, today we often treat the people who express, it's a transgender expression. Would they be treated from the political perspective, or would their spiritual nature be respected?
We have. Do you want to answer that, Don? Do you want to be the bad guy?
Yeah. How would you put it? Like, in a spiritual aspect, yes, he would be respected. But it's really hard, this one, because if he came out to Australia, he or she, as a clever fella, he's got to respect our laws and ways.
Sure.
For us to respect his laws and ways. That's the best way I could put it down to be. Like, if he came here, with respect, we would give him respect back.
Sure. Sure, that makes sense.
But if he didn't come here with respect, he's going to get punished by law.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah,
When in
brother,
Rome, you have to.
if
Yeah,
it was
Luna?
if it was a bloke, we won't be taking him to women's area. If it was a woman, we won't be taking him to a man's area. No matter
Yeah,
what.
yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. And
They're very strict, man.
that
I
makes
can.
logical sense.
I was going to talk about this. I actually felt this coming years ago, and I tried to tell the elders in my community, our culture is going to come to a big loggerhead here, and we're going to have to decide: do we follow our culture or do we follow whatever's happening in the world?
Right.
And I'll be really honest, I'll be the bad guy because I've done talks like this and been asked this question.
Mm-hmm.
And look, don't get me wrong, some of the most closest, dearest people to me around me, they're all from different walks of life, all right? But traditionally, if you were gay, they'd probably kill you. Or you'd have to hide it really, 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 really well.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
Because there's no place for you in our traditional society.
Okay.
Because we can't trust you with this. So for instance, right, we can't trust you with the young girls if you're a female gay woman, because it's inappropriate. And you can't go with the blokes because you're a woman. So there's no place for you. I know the Native Americans, they have a beautiful way. They have actually places for them. We never did. In strict old culture, there was no place for you. Nowadays is different, and I'll give you a kind of idea how we approach it nowadays. Where me and Donny live in New South Wales, a lot of the mob from the outer lying areas in other states will come here to be themselves. And they'll come here, they'll be with their boyfriend or girlfriend, or they'll wear their clothes and have their makeup, and we accept them here, and they can be free. So a lot of them come here for even a weekend just to let loose and be themselves. They'll go home and be normal. It's there is one mob up north, I think they've got a group called the Sisters, and it's a couple of fellas that hang around to each other, and they've kind of been accepted. But Walter, we're in, 2023, and it's only just been acceptable. Can you understand? So, yeah. And then that's the truth. In strict law, no, it wasn't accepted, and probably not.
Well, I think we all know there's a difference between someone who is a two-spirited shaman and someone who just happens to, be transgender, so that you gotta, whenever you ask questions like that, you gotta break that out and make those distinctions.
Yeah.
But that's you're right. Whenever people have to remember, when you go somewhere else to another land or realm, you have to respect, what's there. Let's see. The next question, Craig Freeman asks, are the Yowley and Bunny physical beings?
Yep.
Yeah, they are.
And spiritual too.
And spiritual too.
Yeah.
See, the bunyip beings, he's also a shape changer.
Okay.
He lives in billabongs and deep holes. The best way to find out if there's a spirit in that water is you look along the top of the water. Sometimes you'll get this little tiny, what they call rainbow, above the water. And you know there's a spirit in that water. And it could be a bunyip, it could be a water dog, it could be a lost spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was the question about the Yowie? Did he say?
Well, are they these physical beings or purely
There is
ethereal, spirit beings?
Well, in my car, might be up here where I am. There's a Yowie and a Yui. Yowie is the physical one. The Yui is the spiritual one.
Okay.
There. Yeah. They're just as much as alive as what you call a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Ormas. have a spiritual side of them.
Okay. All righty.
We got the little ones, bulligars.
The little what?
There's little tiny ones with red eyes. They're called bulligars.
Oh,
they-
okay.
That's in one language. Yeah, people, because we have different languages, they call different things in each different mob, but they're all the same kind of being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've reached the 2-hour mark, and I want to thank you two for traveling across time via the internet to join us here tonight and discuss this. I definitely, both of you brought up things that I think kind of demand that I have you return, and we address those various subjects in the future. So I hope you're both open to come back sometime.
Yeah. Sure. We got time. We'll come back. What about you, Luna?
Yeah, I'll come back.
Oh, thank you. Because I'm sure there will be a lot more questions. We'll have to talk about the little people, the fairy folk, the various more about the is it the what's his name, the crocodile man or
Yeah. Crocodile man.
Crocodile Man, yeah, we'll have to talk about him more. But I want to thank you again for being here tonight, and this has been a really interesting discussion. And it's a lot of food for thought. But I will be having you back to talk about these other very interesting things down there in Australia from your perspective. So, is there anything? Before I let you go here, that you want to any website or anything you want to tell everyone about, promote, or where they can reach you?
I'll give myself a plug. Yeah, I've got a little YouTube page every our Saturday, your Friday, and I'm going to change it so it'll end up being your Saturdays. It's
Okay.
called G'day it's Saturday.
Okay.
And me and some of my friends, we get on and we just put on whatever, like.
Right.
Everything strange, wonderful, interesting, scary, not scary. Last week we just had a laugh and a lay back, and it was just fun. Just whatever gets us and whatever's happening. So yeah, check it out if you like it. Watch it if you don't. Oh.
and we will definitely share the link in the community tab here and such, so that people can check it out, and you can get some more people to hang out with you and ask some more questions and such. So, Donnie, what about you? Are you out there somewhere where people can...
No. I'll let Luna do all that job.
He's with me.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and on her, give her a hand every now and then, hey.
All right. Fair enough. So, well, again, thank you both. I look forward to having you back again. And you guys have a good day down there.
Thank you, Walter.
All right.
You have a good evening.
All righty. Thank you. Okay. Well, that was seriously. There were some things that Luna and Donnie mentioned that I could have gone on for an hour on each one of them. So I definitely want to have them back to talk about those things. That's what I like about, just kind of just kick off a conversation like that with, an interesting topic, and one thing leads to another. And I like when that happens. So it was very interesting. I'm enjoying, having these guests and bringing guests to you guys, because it allows me to present a lot more interesting discussions and things than just me and my fat head being here, yapping about my Walter things. So I want to go back to the chat and open it up to questions for me on, anything, any questions you guys might have on anything, relative recent events you think that I might have an opinion you want to hear, or anything to do with the books, or even the film. I'm still working on Kaleidoscope Grimoire. Let's not forget that. So here we go. There's Kaleidoscope Grimoire, a little promotional material there. So let's go to the chat and take a few questions, if there are any. If not, I'll let you guys go and I'll get out of here. So remember, please, all caps, okay? Because now it's a necessity. It's okay. Here we go. Megalithic Yard asks, "How is Napoleon II going?" Very well. It's going to be coming out a lot sooner than I expected, and I think you guys are going to like how I've made a decision recently on presenting the Napoleon research, and I think you guys are going to like it, and it's going to result in volume 2 coming out a lot sooner than I anticipated I would come out with the next Napoleon book. So and what was the decision I made? The decision I made was multiple volumes. So there it is. I've announced it. There's going to be at least volume 2, volume 3, and volume 4. So it's coming along well, Megalithic. Thank you. Let's see what we got here. The question is, did anyone in Hungary buy one of your T-shirts? I'll have to take a look. Should I have expected someone from there to buy one? Was it which particular shirt, perhaps? Yes, Megalith says, "Yay!" So did I. I was glad to have made this decision. So, any more questions, folks? All caps. Remember, it helps me see them better. Now, don't forget the Talbot Mundy books. Here they are. You got to check them out. It's good stuff. You cannot live by nonfiction alone. This is what I say. Sometimes truths need to be presented in a veneer of mythos, fiction. And Philip Blair says, the T-shirt with the Halloween mask look to it. Oh, you mean with this little guy? The guy up in the corner there. Up in the corner right there. We'll have to take a look at the data on the sales and let you know. So. Okay, well, folks, I think that's good enough for tonight. Wow, that's 2 hours and 12 minutes. 2 hours going on, 2 hours and 13 minutes, and that's enough Walter Bosley for anyone. So I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be doing, I have a couple of interviews on other shows this week. And as I said, the poisonous magnetism, the paranormal experiences of John Brown, Medium of the Rockies, classic reprint of an 1897 edition of a fascinating, ostensibly, supposedly nonfiction book, will be released by sometime in the next 24 hours. And it's in the classic reprint series that my label offers, and I think you guys ought to check it out. So do that. Remember to go to lostcontinentlibrary.com, where you can reach the links to the books. Yes, the books are still printed and distributed through Lulu, but go to lostcontinentlibrary.com. We're always building it. It's always improving, but it is active. Things are there. Go check it out. You'll find walterbosley.com there, and I've begun to do more blog entries. Again, you're going to see those increase. And I think that's just about it for tonight. Thank you all for showing up in the live chat, and all of you who are watching this outside the live chat. And I will see you next Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So you guys have a good night.